Cole Sprouse was 24 when he started playing a 15-year-old on Riverdale. Ben Platt was 27 when he played a high school senior. And weirdly enough, the age gap might be the least of the realism we lost. Just wait till we get to gunfights, dialogue, and something even way worse. We've been watching this version of being a teenager for so long that we've forgotten what the real one looks like. Like, what happens after the casting decision is already made. Every department on the show has to figure out how to dress a fully grown adult like a teenager, and most of them barely bother. Watch a Riverdale party scene and try to convince yourself you're looking at 16-year-olds. It feels like an office Christmas party where everyone has been 30 for a while. Even the locker conversations sound like grown people sorting out their week, not kids killing time between bills. The wardrobe is half why. Betty walks the halls of her supposed public high school in fitted sweaters, cardigans, you name it. Veronica shows up to second period in pearl chokers and full editorial makeup. They get dressed like the editor of a fashion magazine is going to meet them in homeroom. Chase Stokes was 27 when he started playing 16-year-old John B. on Outer Banks, and the wardrobe team styled him in linen shirts and beach jewelry like he'd been refining his look for a decade. Sex Education casts adult actors the same way Riverdale does. Asa Butterfield was 22 when the show started. Emma Mackey was 23. But they did something different than Riverdale. Just look. Eric wears a different mismatched pattern in most scenes because he's still figuring out his look and identity. And Otis wears the same blue jacket for 3 seasons because he's a 17-year-old boy who doesn't care about clothes. Or that's what it looks like, at least. The girls wear training bras and the cheap mall underwear you actually own at 16, not the Victoria's Secret lingerie everyone else seems to be wearing to first period. The actors are the same age as Riverdale's cast. The styling is what decides whether they look like teenagers or like a CW pilot. Does that solve the realism problem? No, far from it. There is one mistake that's even bigger and much easier to fix, but we'll get there. You might be thinking it's just casting teenagers instead of adults. So what happens when a show does that? Well, they still take the wrong approach. The production usually does everything it can to wipe the teenager off them. The skin gets airbrushed and the frizz gets smoothed. Braces come off the second the network thinks it can get away with it. Acne gets treated the way wrinkles get treated on a 60-year-old actress, which is to say, removed from the visible record. A clinical psychologist named Barbara Greenberg explained that when shows present teenagers who look good in every scene, they tell real teenagers they're supposed to look good in every scene too. Which is what makes Saoirse Ronan's face in Lady Bird hit so hard. There's a scene where she had an actual acne breakout during filming, and the makeup team, together with Greta Gerwig, told them to leave it, telling them all she sees in movies about teenage girls is that they have perfect skin and perfect hair. And the reality of teenagers is, they don't. Saoirse was 23 in that movie, but she looked like a teenager. Because someone in the room finally remembered teenagers were allowed to. And honestly, maybe you could forgive the bodies if the rest of the illusion held. But the second these characters open their mouths, new realism problems start to arise. Riverdale has this scene that became a meme.
In case you haven't noticed, I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in.
No teenager talks like that. But the show needed Jughead characterized as the outsider in a hurry, so a writer in his 40s wrote what he thought an outsider teenager would say. It doesn't sound anything like an actual one. Wednesday does the same thing for an entire run of episodes. Every line out of Wednesday's mouth is a polished one-liner.
I find social media to be a soul-sucking void of meaningless affirmation.
She says this in the first episode. That's something a 28-year-old comedy writer thinks would be funny coming out of a teenager's mouth. I mean, granted, it is Wednesday Addams, but still, no actual 16-year-old has ever spoken in complete deadpan clauses about social media being a soul-sucking void. But the line was built to be a screenshot and posted to TikTok, and on TikTok, it works. As actual teenage speech, it dies on contact. The reason this keeps happening is something the industry doesn't really talk about out loud. Every person writing teen dialogue is an adult who was 16 a long time ago. Most of them never had a real reason to keep listening to how teenagers actually talk after they stopped being one. And the people watching these shows are also adults who don't catch the artifice because they don't quite remember what teenage speech sounds like either. So the writer writes for the adult ear and the adult ear doesn't notice the lie. Some writers go back and listen anyway. Bo Burnham wrote Kayla in 8th grade after spending serious time watching how kids actually talked online. Her dialogue is,
and make sure to subscribe to my channel. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Gucci. It's painful to watch, but we've all heard a 13-year-old talk exactly like that. Go to a school now and you'll hear kids scream 6-7 an insane amount of time. I went to get ice cream a week ago. There were 2 kids with a dad in front of me. Their total came out to $6.70. The kids did this hand gesture and just ran out. I then had to listen to the dad try to explain it to the older cashier what the hell they were doing. I got secondhand embarrassment from it. Back to teen movies though, where a particular director got it right. In Dazed and Confused, teenagers talk in circles about nothing for 2 hours and feel completely real because they say 15 wrong things before they say one right one. Linklater specifically didn't want to see another teen drama where the girl gets pregnant, there's a car crash, and somebody dies. So he decided to make one about the largely uneventful small-town youth he remembered instead. Sex education leans into the same thing. Every conversation gets interrupted by somebody fumbling their way through saying the wrong thing at the worst possible moment. Once we've heard what teenagers actually sound like on screen, we can't unhear the difference, and it pulls the rest of the show out of focus with it. The room starts to look wrong. The lighting and the framing are pulling the same trick the dialogue is. Watch the kitchen scene at the start of Lady Bird. The light is coming through the window. There are shadows on the wall. Half the room is bright and half of it is dark. It's the kind of light that exists in a kitchen because it's coming from outside and you can feel it. Now picture a kitchen scene in any Netflix teen rom-com from the last few years. The To All the Boys kind. The light is everywhere, and the room is evenly soft from corner to corner. This is sometimes called the Netflix look. Netflix has a list of approved cameras that productions are required to shoot on, and those cameras get pushed towards a certain spec. Shadow detail gets lifted and contrast gets softened. Exposure stays uniform across the frame. The result is a picture where everything is visible and almost nothing is expressive. Faces are always evenly lit because faces always need to be readable on a phone screen at half brightness in a coffee shop. They adjust their filming specifically to those watching it. The framing pulls the same trick. Watch a Linklater frame from Dazed and Confused. The camera is sitting in the corner of a hallway and the teenagers walk past it like they've forgotten it's there. It's late to the moment. It doesn't quite know who the important one is yet. Now watch a Riverdale scene. The camera is centered on a face we already know is the important one. The push-in is already happening before the actor delivers the line. The hero shot has been pre-planned and the lighting is pre-stamped to make it land. Same kind of scene in both, but the camera in the first one is watching and the camera in the second one is announcing. Real teenage life never works that way. You don't know what mattered until you're 27 and you remember it. The Linklater camera understood that. The Riverdale camera doesn't have time for it. And then there's the phones. Modern teenagers spend most of their waking lives looking at a screen. Most teen content either ignores that entirely or shows it as a clean little notification bubble that pops up on screen with a cute animation. 8th Grade is one of the only films that has ever tried to capture what teen phone life actually feels like. Kayla is on her bed doom scrolling Instagram, the flat blue light pooling on her face, time disappearing in a way you can feel watching it. It doesn't look pretty on screen, it isn't supposed to. What the camera and the lights and the phones and modern teen content are all doing together is making the world look better than it actually feels to be in. Which would be fine if the show wasn't supposed to be about how it actually felt to be 16. So what is the realism they're still missing, even if they had teenagers acting and talking like actual teenagers? Well, let me start off with a weird statement that will make sense in just a little bit. The CDC has been measuring teenage sex rates since 1991. Back then, more than half of American high schoolers had had sex. By 2017, the number was 40% and still dropping. The vast majority of teenagers in this country graduate high school as virgins. Did any teenage drama or show adjust to those numbers? Merely by looking at the numbers, teenagers nowadays have never been to a party that ended in an overdose, and nobody they knew has died in a way that turned their senior year into a 13-episode mystery box. Most teenagers spent the bulk of their high school years working through homework and waiting for their lives to start. The texture of teenage life, in real life, is mostly waiting and being bored. Compare that to what teen content has been selling for a decade. Euphoria opens with a near-fatal overdose in the first episode. Riverdale begins with a missing kid and a teacher-student affair in the same pilot. 13 Reasons Why turns a box of cassettes into a 13-episode mystery. Outer Banks has actual gunfights and treasure plots. The whole genre runs at full crisis volume from frame one, and the audience, who is mostly teenagers, watches that volume bounce back at them and wonders why their own Tuesday feels so flat by comparison. Let Let me run a quick comparison. Dazed and Confused is 100 minutes of teenagers driving around their town on the last day of school, arguing about nothing, going to the same party they go to every weekend. Empire Records is the same shape, just set in a record store where the kids work. Reality Bites does it with people a little older, 20-somethings, who graduated college and have nowhere to go. These films understood that adolescence is mostly waiting around. They didn't try to disguise it. The parties and the small embarrassments were the texture of being young, not the exceptions to it. That kind of movie doesn't really get made anymore. Mid-budget theatrical teen films basically weakened somewhere around 2015. The middle of the industry collapsed, squeezed between franchise blockbusters that needed $1 billion gross and streaming originals optimized for thumbnails. A hangout movie can't compete on either end. There's no plot you can sell in one sentence, and no kiss or kill for the trailer. On a streaming platform where retention is the only metric that matters, the form just quietly disappeared. What replaced it is the version we have now, where every Tuesday is a near-death experience and every breakup is the season finale. The whole genre is permanently set to crisis. The camera anticipates every climax, and the lighting flatters every face. Everyone on screen is playing the whole thing at 27. Genres change all the time, and that's fine. But the real questions are, who are we making it for, and what is the impact of that? Starting with the last one first, as its social impact is bigger than you'd imagine. There's a psychologist named Honey Lancaster James who has talked about this. She points out that one of the things adults do with entertainment is process emotions they once felt overwhelming from a safer distance. Adult viewers can watch a teenager fall apart on Euphoria and feel a faint, manageable echo of falling apart themselves at 16, with the distance of being 35 and on the other side of it. That works fine for the adult. It does not work fine for the teenager who's also watching, who is not on the other side of any of it yet. For them, the show works as a template. It teaches them what their life is supposed to look like. They see adult bodies dressed in fashion editorial, making out in perfect natural lighting at a party where someone overdosed beautifully, and they hear themselves told that this is what they should be doing too. The texture of their own actual life, which is mostly waiting around feeling like nothing is happening, gets sorted into a file marked abnormal. There's a media studies idea called symbolic annihilation. It describes what happens when a group is mostly absent from the screen, and the absence sends a message back to that group about whether their lives are even worth depicting. Realistic teenage life has been mostly absent from teen content for a decade. So a generation of teenagers learns that the version of their life that's actually happening to them isn't the version that gets to be a story. We lost more than the realism. The deeper thing that disappeared was the acknowledgement that real teenage life was a thing worth pointing a camera at. We've been watching adults perform a version of being young for so long that we've forgotten the real version even existed. And teen movies aren't the only place this has happened. The romantic movie pulled the same trick first, maybe even worse. Find out yourself by clicking here.